All right, let's stay with the story now and take you live to Newzroom Afrika's Liyema Vumisa, who is tracking that story. Liyema, good morning. So give us an update on the pupils who are still in hospital.
A very good morning to you, Michelle. Well, what you understand currently is that from yesterday's event, it was a total of 131, I beg your pardon, the number of learners here at this very same school that we are at, Gobizizwe Agricultural High School here in Mthatha. But as it stands today, we only understand then that majority of those students have since been released or discharged from the hospital, various hospitals that is right here in Mthatha. But one learner still remains in one of those hospitals. From yesterday, the learner in question was in a critical condition, but he has since then recovered and is now stable, but is obviously undergoing certain other processes before then he can also be released from hospital. But I just had a conversation then to try and ascertain what might have led to all of this, Michelle. What we understand from some of the personnel at the school, of course, we can't mention who they are, but they tell me reliably that there was an event at the school that had happened here. As my colleague will show you, then there's a tent right inside the premises of the school. There was an event that occurred here wherein the food in question was supplied to all of those attendees of that event, but then only certain portion of learners from this school had in fact, shown or exhibited signs or symptoms of vomiting, diarrhea, abdominal pains, and also seizures, amongst many other symptoms. And hence then they beg the question that could it have been the food that is being supplied here at the school that might have caused this, because the wide speculation from some of the people at the school is that this is a very precarious time for the learners, and they even claim that it might in fact be something related to certain spiritual beliefs, and others also claim that other students might have not been intact with what was happening at the school and in the vicinity of the area that is here, because the event that was happening was a prize giving event. You can imagine then that it is a competition, but the education department has since spoken to me off the record, of course, and what we understand is that currently they are awaiting the processes to be finalized from the health department. In fact, before you came to us, we did in fact see ambulances here in this very same school, Gobizizwe Agricultural High School. What we know is that they're here to check then the status of the learners in the school, that are there possibly any other learners that are still exhibiting signs of the various symptoms that could have led then to that issue or incident that occurred yesterday at about 1 p.m. in the afternoon. A colleague of mine then also tells me that at some of the hospitals, the parents of those learners are still sending back some of their children back to those hospitals because they still see some of the signs that they are showing. What is interesting then, Michelle, just as we close, is that I did take the liberty to check some of the canned fish that was also supplied as part of the food items that was being eaten at the event that occurred here. I was looking specifically at the expiry date, trying of course to ascertain whether or not could it have been that it was expired canned fish that might have led to what occurred here. But I can confidently say that I've checked at about 5 tins of fish, and I can confirm that the expiry date is in fact in 2028. Well, the situation still remains on high alert as far as officials are concerned, but learners at this school still continue to undergo their academic learning, and also the teachers are here to teach the learners whilst the officials conduct their business and investigations to try and ascertain what might have led to the issue that occurred.
So, Liyema, it sounds like, because, the reports, according to the reports that we have, this was food that was supplied at the school. So it was supplied at the school, not by the school. So this was an external supplier that came in. I'm sure there will be investigations over the coming days, but how certain is the education department that it must have been the food eaten by most of the learners that would have been responsible for these symptoms?
That's right, Michelle. That's a very same question that I asked myself. If the food was eaten inside the premises of this school, who in fact takes responsibility for having supplied that food? Again, another person who I can't, show or tell their identity did in fact confirm from the education department that the supplier was an external supplier, not the supplier that is being sourced by the education department to supply what you may term as a food scheme for the learners. So it was in fact an external supplier that was bringing in food for this particular event, not food that is normally being supplied or outsourced by the Department itself of Education. As far as responsibility is concerned, as it currently stands, there's still a lot of pointing of fingers as to who might have actually, been a role player leading up to what had transpired yesterday.